so close to the place where you're going to be seated so that we can have a sharp start upon the arrival of Her Excellency. So I invite you to move towards the location where you intend to witness this event. I'll get close. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of Her Excellency, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Mason, President of Barbados, and please remain standing during the national anthem of Barbados. Your Excellency, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Prunella Mason, President of Barbados. Honorable Mr. Justice Francis Bell, Senior Appellate Judge, here as representative of the Chief Justice of Barbados. Honorable Dale Marshall, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. Honorable Kerry Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and Senior Minister coordinating the productive sector. Honorable members of the Cabinet of Barbados. The Most Honorable Reginald Farley, Senator and President of the Senate. Honorable Ralph Thorne, Leader of the Opposition. Honorable Judge Nancy Hernandez Lopez, President of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, and Honorable Judge Rodrigo Mudravich, Vice President of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, Honorable Judge Eduardo Ferrer McGregor Poisot, Honorable Judge Ricardo Perez Manrique, Honorable Judge Veronica Gomez, and we recognize at this point the final member of the court, Honorable Judge Patricia Perez Goldberg, who will arrive later today. Members of the Secretariat of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, representatives of the governments of Chile, Colombia, Mexico, and Vanuatu, members of the Diplomatic Corps, retired Justice Christopher Blackman, Chairman of the Constitutional Reform Commission, senior government officials, specially invited guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen here in person and those joining us virtually. Welcome to the opening ceremony of the 166th regular session of the Inter-American Court being celebrated in Barbados. Today's event is a recognition that what takes place here in Barbados this week is an important moment historically for our home planet, as offered through the efforts of the countries who are signatories to the Inter-American Convention. There will be many lawyers, many sophisticated and nuanced arguments presented, highly technical proceedings requiring experienced and expert minds, from which we are expecting, as an eventual result, real-world effects. And so, Barbados, a key global voice for climate justice, is proud to have been chosen by the court to be the venue for these deliberations and to mark the event with today's opening ceremony, fittingly on Earth Day 2024. We anticipate with pleasure the addresses to be presented by the Honorable Minister Simmons and by the Honorable Judge Hernandez Lopez, President of the Court. Also joining our head table is Judge Rodrigo Mudravich, Vice President of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. So, without further ado, I wish to invite Honorable Judge Hernandez Lopez, President of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, to deliver the opening address.
Good morning to all. I would like to acknowledge Her Excellency, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Prunella Mason, President of Barbados, the Honorable Mr. Justice Francis Bell, Senior Appellate Judge, Representative of the Chief Justice of Barbados, the Honorable Dale Marshall, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Kerry Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and Senior Minister of the Productive Sector, honorable members of the Cabinet of Barbados, my dear colleagues, Judge Rodrigo Mudravich, Vice President of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, Judge Eduardo Ferrer McGregor, Judge Ricardo Perez Manrique, Judge Veronica Gomez, members of the Secretariat of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. I don't see Ms. Roberta Clark, President of the Inter-American Commission, members of the Secretariat of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights, members of the Diplomatic Corps, senior government officials, especially invited guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is with great honor that I address you today on the opening of the 166th regular sessions of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, convened this time in Bridgetown, Barbados, from April 22nd to 26, 2024. I extend heartfelt gratitude to the head of state of Barbados, Her Excellency Sandra Mason, with whom the court will have a meeting after this event. Additionally, I want to recognize with gratitude the presence of Justice Francis Bell, Honorable Dale D. Marshall, Honorable Carrie D. Simmons. The Republic of Barbados' unwavering gracious invitation to host the court session here and its support have been pivotal for making this historic session possible. Special recognition is due to the University of West Indies for their substantial contribution enabling the realization of these regular sessions. Also, we would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to the seminar on international human rights law that will take place later this afternoon as part of the court's agenda. Conducting sessions in a Caribbean member country aligns with the Inter-American Court's mission to promote and disseminate its jurisprudence as mandated by the American Convention of Human Rights. This session marks the court's second visit to Barbados in its entire history, following the 44th extraordinary period of sessions in 2011. That occasion represented a remarkable milestone, bringing the court closer to the region. It is also important to recall that the court had an outstanding judge from Barbados, Mr. Oliver Jackman, who served from 1994 to 2005. Judge Jackman's tenure at the court was marked by dedication to upholding justice and protecting human rights, with rulings reflecting a nuanced understanding of complex human rights issues, established important precedents, and shaped the development of the inter-American jurisprudence. Moreover, the court's 45-year history has been privileged to have 3 judges from the Caribbean, including Judge Margaret May Macaulay from Jamaica and Judge Radis Abreu Blondet from the Dominican Republic. We also have the honor of having Roberta Clark, current president of the Inter-American Commission and national from Barbados, heading the commission at this time. There is no doubt that the presence of Caribbean judges and commissioners reflect the region's will and commitment to upholding human rights principles within the inter-American system. Likewise, it is relevant to evoke the presence of Barbados within the inter-American system. Nearly 24 years have passed since the Republic of Barbados, exercising its sovereignty, opted to consent the Inter-American Court jurisdiction for the resolution of contentious cases, providing an opportunity to reinforce human rights protection to all of their citizens. Regarding Barbados, the court's jurisprudence has set significant precedents concerning the death penalty and its application as a form of punishment. The rulings regarding the Da Costa Cadogan case and Boyce and others versus Barbados case have reshaped the landscape of criminal law regarding the death penalty and unquestionably underscore the intersection with human rights. We believe that Barbados' journey within the inter-American system of human rights highlights its commitment to upholding fundamental rights and ensuring compliance with international standards. In this scenario, returning to Barbados after 13 years presents an invaluable opportunity to engage with its population and the wider Caribbean community, especially considering the issue at stake, the climate change emergency and human rights protection. Thus, we rejoice in the opportunity to deepen awareness of the Court's work and impact among the people of Barbados and the broader Caribbean community. We welcome the significance of holding hearings regarding the advisory opinion of climate change in a Caribbean nation who is in the front line of this emergency. The fact that today is Earth Day seems to be providential, as it was meant to be, to remind us of our duty to care for the planet. This week, the Court will hear from 62 delegations, including Republic of Barbados, as well as the republics of Chile, Colombia, Vanuatu, and the United States of Mexico. Additionally, relevant participants include the Special Rapporteur on Economic, Social, Cultural, and Environmental Rights of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights, the UN Special Rapporteur on Toxic Substances and Human Rights, alongside the United Nations Settlement Program and various non-governmental organizations, research teams, and legal clinics, amongst others. As it is well known, the Caribbean region stands as one of the most vulnerable climate change facing threats of rising sea levels, more severe hurricanes, and shifting weather patterns. These environmental shifts not only endanger natural ecosystems, but also pose significant risk to the economy, the environment, and inhabitants of Caribbean islands. According to science, climate change poses an existential threat to humanity. No wonder there is litigation all over the world on this issue, as all generations and different members of society are turning to national and international courts seeking justice due to the urgency of the matter and the need of commitment from the international community. For example, the European Court of Human Rights has declared governmental inaction on climate change a violation of human rights, emphasizing states' duty to combat climate change, to protect human rights. Similarly, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea is set to issue an opinion on climate change impact on the marine environment, focusing on preventing pollution and preserving marine ecosystems. Additionally, the International Court of Justice has accepted written statements on the obligations of states concerning climate change, with 91 statements filed as of April 12th. In this context, we are confident on the advisory request opinion on climate emergency submitted by Chile and Colombia will allow the court to work towards issuing an opinion that will positively impact the region and the world. Bear in mind that even though various courts are delving into the legal ramifications of climate change, there is one key aspect that sets the Inter-American Court apart from the rest. Unlike other tribunals, the Court is set to conduct a process that is open to anyone who wants to participate on shaping this opinion. That's why here in Barbados, and later in Brazil in May this year, we will be able to listen not just from member states, but from global actors about their concerns regarding climate change. The Inter-American Court has received a groundbreaking number of observations, 265 in total, from states, civil society, indigenous people, local communities, universities, scientists and experts on climate change, amongst others. This is where the real value of the advisory opinion lies. It is open to everyone with no exceptions of any region. Thus, it is a worldwide dialogue, a construction effort, a historical, unprecedented participation. In response to these challenges today, we stand on Barbados not merely as spectators, but as guardians of the human rights stated in the Convention at a crossroad of that our region is facing. Madam President, I would like to convey a very strong message. Your human rights issues are not invisible to us. Your human rights challenges are our duties as a court. They are part of our mandate. May your presence here be a reminder of the unwavering commitment of the court to the human rights issues confronting Barbados and the Caribbean region, especially related to the climate change emergency. As judges, it is through rigorous debate, analysis, and legal scrutiny that all members of the plenary of the court will identify the most comprehensive legal tools in our hands for addressing this matter within the framework of international law. Rest assured that we will do all in our power to do so. Nevertheless, I believe the real and long-standing solution to the challenges we face lies in true multilateralism and the genuine commitment of all countries. No country by itself, no court by itself, will solve global problems. It is imperative that we reaffirm the relevance of international organizations and governments in addressing not only climate change, but also the most urgent existential threats facing humanity as a whole. Climate change undoubtedly ranks among the foremost challenges of our time, but it is not the only concern. Issues such as unregulated use of artificial intelligence with full autonomy to make decisions, ongoing conflicts and wars, and numerous other global challenges demand our collective attention and concerted action. True multilateralism requires active engagement and collaboration amongst nations, guided by shared values and commitment to the common good. International organizations serve as an essential platform for establishing dialogue, coordinating efforts, and mobilizing resources to tackle complex global issues effectively. Indeed, the Caribbean stands out as a region that has made significant strides in fostering integration and dialogue to pursuing lasting peace. Despite its diversity in terms of languages, cultures, and historical backgrounds, Caribbean nations have recognized the importance of unity and cooperation in addressing common challenges and advancing shared goals. As we confront these existential threats, it is crucial that we prioritize cooperation over competition, solidarity over self-interest, and inclusivity over exclusion. Only through genuine multilateral cooperation can we hope to address the multifaceted challenges threatening the well-being and sustainability of our planet. This year, the Court commemorates 45 years since its establishment. And just last year marked the 45th anniversary of the American Convention of Human Rights, the 75th anniversary of the American Declaration of Human Rights and Duties of Man, and the 65th anniversary of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights. Through landmark rulings and advisory opinions, the Court has played all through these years a pivotal role in the protection of human rights across the region. Its decisions have not only provided the protection of human rights in favor of the most vulnerable groups of the region, but they have also fostered democratic governance, strengthened the rule of law, and promoted accountability for human rights violations. Already in the recent ruling of La Oroya versus Peru, the Court underlined the right to air quality and the right to a healthy environment, emphasizing the crucial principle of intergenerational equity. The Court's ongoing commitment to justice, fairness, and equality continues to shape the region's trajectory toward a more just and humane society. Thus, we are confident that the hearings held this week on the advisory opinion on climate change emergency will allow the Court to work towards issuing an opinion that will positively impact the region and the world, considering present and future generations. Today, more than ever, this tribunal continues navigating pressing global issues. Besides the climate change advisory opinion, the Court is currently debating other advisory opinions on the right to care and the responsibility of states on arms control provided by private businesses, and has been recently announced the possibility of a new request for advisory opinion on freedom of expression and social platforms. I believe this historical moment is an opportunity to highlight the relevance of having an international human rights court on the region. As I stated before, the existential threats we are facing require multilateral action, and on the absence of action, the people all over the world are turning to judges. Meanwhile, regional human rights courts are struggling with deficient budgets and permanent political attacks. It is disheartening to observe the allocation of trillions of dollars to warfare while encountering a very fragile will to invest in human rights, with a few exceptions. There is no doubt that the Inter-American Court has a profound impact on the region, shaping the landscape of human rights protection and legal accountability across the Americas and the Caribbean. Since 2003, the Court has convened 35 sessions across 16 state parties to the American Convention, conducting 136 hearings and 48 seminars, allowing it to get closer to states and the people it serves. We agree that this is the only way to nurture constructive dialogues with national authorities, the academia, and civil society, and intimately engaging with varied realities across the Americas. Therefore, I believe it would be unwise, especially at this time in history, to undermine the inter-American system of human rights. If ever there were a pressing moment to strengthen the protection of human rights, it is right now, when the inter-American system remains at the forefront of tackling a myriad of issues and adapting to contemporary challenges and its impact on human rights of individuals across the Americas, including the Caribbean region. As we gather here in Barbados, we are reminded of the urgent need to uphold human rights principles, especially in the face of pressing challenges. I am confident that the discussions and deliberations of this session will contribute significantly to advancing human rights protection in the region and beyond. It is through our collective efforts that we can strive towards a world where dignity, equality, and justice will finally prevail. In conclusion, Madam President, distinguished members of the government, cabinet, distinguished guests, I would like to convey on behalf of my esteemed colleagues our deepest gratitude for your hospitality in hosting our 166 period of sessions. I extend my sincere thanks to all participants, observers, and supporters of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights on the execution of the hearings here in Barbados. The Court remains steadfast in its commitment to impartiality and the pursuit of justice for all. As we aim to reflect on the intersection of climate change and human rights, it is clear that these are global challenges that require collective action and cooperation. While the Court plays a vital role in shaping human rights standards, it is essential for all stakeholders to actively engage in addressing the pressing issues of climate change and its impact on human rights. Our collective efforts must be guided by a commitment of fairness, equity, and the protection of the most vulnerable populations. I encourage continuous dialogue and collaboration amongst government, civil society, organizations, and other stakeholders to develop innovative solutions that promote environmental sustainability and respect for human rights. I believe together we can work towards a more just and sustainable future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Judge Hernandez-Lopez, for your message, both in your words and I think even more strongly in the presence of the court here today and this week. I now have the pleasure of inviting the Honorable Kerry Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and Senior Minister coordinating the productive sector, to deliver his address.
Your Excellency, the Most Honorable Dame Sandra Mason, President of Barbados. Thank you. The Honorable Mr. Justice Francis Bell, Sr., Judge of the Court of Appeal and representative of His Honor, the Chief Justice of Barbados. The Honorable Dale Marshall, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. Honorable members of the Cabinet of Barbados. The Most Honorable Reginald Farley, President of the Senate of Barbados. The Honorable Mr. Ralph Thorne, Leader of the Opposition of Barbados. Solicitor General of Barbados, Anika Jackson, Senior Counsel. Judge Nancy Hernandez-Lopez, President of the Inter-American Human Rights Court. Judge Rodrigo Mudrovich, Vice President of the Inter-American Human Rights Court. Judge Ricardo Perez Manrique, Judge Eduardo Ferrer McGregor Poiseau, Judge Veronica Gomez, Judge Patricia Perez Goldberg, members of the Secretariat of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, representatives of the Government of Chile, representatives of the Government of Colombia, representatives of the Government of Mexico, and representatives of the Government of Vanuatu, senior government officials of the Government of Barbados, members of the Diplomatic Corps, specially invited guests, members of the media, both local and international, ladies and gentlemen all. It is truly an honor and indeed a privilege on behalf of the government and people of Barbados to welcome the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to Barbados for its 166th session. Barbados, as you know, has long been an active member of the Organization of American States. Indeed, we ratified the Inter-American Convention on Human Rights in the year 1981 and went on to accept and adopt its jurisdiction in the year 2000. History now records that a former eminent Barbadian diplomat, the late Ambassador Oliver Jackman, sat as a judge of the court from the year 1996 until the year 2005. And permit me, Judge Hernandez-Lopez, to observe at this point that we look forward to seeing more Barbadian and indeed more Caribbean community jurists being able to ascend to and to populate this august body. This historic 166th session will take the form of an in-person public hearing of the judicial proceedings and has been initiated, as you heard, by the governments of Chile and Colombia, who have requested an advisory opinion of the court on the central question of, and I quote, the climate emergency and human rights. Over the course of the next few days, the court will hear the pleadings and arguments of 64 interveners who have made written submissions and Barbados is exceptionally proud and pleased to be among this body of interveners. The interveners in the instant matter include 5 member states of the Inter-American system. Additionally, several organs and bodies of the Inter-American and the United Nations systems as well, and also a variety of non-governmental organizations which are working in the fields of climate justice and environmental sustainability and civil rights and human rights, all having made submissions in this most important matter. Barbados welcomes the opportunity to host and to participate in these advisory opinion proceedings for a number of very good reasons. First of all, this sitting will focus on the zone at which the climate crisis intersects with issues of our fundamental human rights. For some time now, in fact, let me say for some considerable time now, Barbados has sought to appeal to the conscience of the globe so as to achieve an appreciation and hopefully also achieve a common understanding of the need for our international financial architecture to be reconfigured and recalibrated in order to better serve and to be able to better respond to some of the financial and societal challenges which are confronting small states as a result of the climate emergency. When we have spoken to these issues, we have done so almost exclusively from a perspective of diplomatic and moral exchanges in the name of climate justice. Moral suasion, therefore, has been the constraints within which we have interrogated these issues. These hearings will now take us a step further by evaluating and by establishing the legal obligations which are attendant upon this climate emergency and its consequences for multiple millions of people whose lives and indeed whose livelihoods are now being threatened and, quite frankly, in some cases, being decimated. The rights and the well-being of people, we believe, cannot be separated from the well-being of the planet. Beyond that, this sitting presents an opportunity to overcome yet another challenge. As a small island developing state, we live with the burden of knowing that despite our best and perhaps most strident and strenuous of efforts, we are simply too small to compel change. We are simply too small to change international orthodoxy or to change international behavioral patterns. The pursuit of an advisory opinion such as these proceedings will lead to gives us the opportunity to move the needle, moving it, as I indicated before, beyond the moral, beyond the political, and beyond the diplomatic dialogue to establishment of legal foundations and principles within which not just Barbados, not just this region, but the global community can now begin to treat to the social and human issues which are attendant upon this vexing but inescapable crisis which now confronts our climate. It is our expectation, therefore, that over the course of the next few days, the court will examine the application of human rights law to the obligations and consequences arising from climate change with a view to developing a human rights framework which will be applicable across the Inter-American human rights system. We are fully cognizant that, as is the norm with such advisory opinions, the opinion rendered by the court will not constitute a legally binding obligation on any state. However, we also recognize the value of the court's leadership, and we also expect that the opinion rendered will carry significant legal weight and significant jurisprudential influence. Indeed, we are extremely confident as well that the opinions to be rendered from the sitting in Barbados will contribute to the clarification and to the evolution and development of international law and be a useful tool in guiding us to navigate and to cope with the adverse impacts of the climate crisis which now confronts us. Barbados also believes that these hearings will serve to further educate and to stimulate the thinking of the wider public on these critical matters. relating to the climate emergency and its impact, which is now not only being felt across the planet, but is also having particularly dire consequences on small, low-lying, vulnerable, low-lying coastal states such as Barbados. For us, ladies and gentlemen, the climate emergency is now a lived reality. It is felt in the increasingly unpredictable and unstable and adverse weather patterns which confront us. From extreme drought to severe flash flooding, it is also being seen in the coastal erosion due to the destruction of our coral reefs, which are a natural first defense for our beautiful beaches, from the persistent sea level rise and the ravages of the sea. I previously mentioned the issue of extreme drought. Permit me, Justice Hernandez, Lopez, to point out to you and your panel the fact that with respect to extreme drought, Barbados during the first 6 months of last year, 2023, recorded only 50% of the average rainfall we have historically received during that same first 6 months period across the past 30 years. These phenomena, especially taken within the context of a tourism and hospitality-dependent economy, constitute potentially catastrophic developments. They also collectively have a knock-on effect on our food security. They collectively have a knock-on effect on our ability to sustain agricultural practice in this country and in similar countries. They have a knock-on effect on our ability to effectively exploit fisheries resources and to feed ourselves. And when coupled with the very substantial financial investments which are now required to build resilience and to enable us to adapt to the threat of climate change, it becomes easy to understand, therefore, that these are matters which collectively now strike at the very heart of our capacity to survive. There's another matter about which we feel a deep degree of concern and about which it is sometimes difficult to speak, but impossible to remain silent. The fact is that our circumstances are being made worse by the worrisome trend of escalating cost of insurance premiums and by the noticeable retreat of the insurance industry from disaster-prone jurisdictions. The increasing certainty of climate-induced disaster has indeed become a disincentive for insurers to provide affordable and accessible coverage, or indeed any coverage at all. This in turn has created a further existential dilemma. The question now is, if we are rendered uninsurable as small states, will we not also become regions that are uninvestable and therefore incapable of securing and or maintaining economic growth? That is now, ladies and gentlemen, the bedeviling question of our time. For these reasons, the government of Barbados has seized this unique opportunity to present firsthand its perspectives on the climate emergency and how it affects the lives and indeed the livelihoods of Barbadians at every single age and in every walk of life. In addition to this inter-American process, Barbados has also decided to participate in a parallel process at the International Court of Justice. It was in May of last year, 2023, with the support of Barbados and a number of other countries, that the Pacific Island state of Vanuatu took the initiative to the United Nations General Assembly to request that the International Court of Justice, the so-called World Court, render an advisory opinion on, and I quote, the obligations of states arising under international law to ensure the protection of the climate system and other parts of the environment from anthropogenic emissions of greenhouse gases for states and also for present and future generations, end of quote. The International Court of Justice was also asked to consider, and I again quote, the legal consequences under these obligations for states where they, by their acts and or their omissions, have caused significant harm to the climate system and to other parts of the environment, end of quote. Finally, the General Assembly was asked the International Court to focus in particular on states, including in particular small island developing states, which due to their geographical circumstances and their level of development are injured or are specifically affected by or are vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change. The proceedings before this Inter-American Human Rights Court and the cases to be called before the International Court of Justice, and indeed some of the other cases which are ongoing and which have already started, to which we were earlier referred, now take us to the point where we are standing at a seminal moment in global history. At a seminal moment in global history, in this fight against the climate crisis. As an international community, we are now at the moment where the true legal consequences of the climate crisis are being determined. This determination, we respectfully submit, must include our rights to compensation for the ravages caused by this emergency, especially in circumstances where small island developing states are not the principal polluters, but are disproportionately affected and impacted by the result of the pollution. Let me take this opportunity, therefore, to thank the University of the West Indies, and in particular this Sagicor School of Business here at Cave Hill, for providing the salubrious conditions and the excellent support for this historic sitting. On behalf of the government and the people of Barbados, I wish the petitioners all the very best in their oral submissions. I want to take the opportunity as well to wish you, the judicial panel, all the very best in your deliberations. I am aware that at least one of you only arrived on the island today, and you would therefore be pressured to some extent, but I want to urge that you take but a moment in order to sample the warmth and the hospitality of this truly amazing destination. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Many thanks, Minister Simmons, for reminding us not only of the context, but of the very critical and urgent significance of this week's events. So as the physical and virtual audience contemplate your words, Minister, we wish to express thanks to the government of Barbados for being such an amazing host already, even prior to the hearings. This is the moment when I ask those of you who are here in person to remain in place. I invite you to become witnesses. We are going to record for posterity this gathering of the highest representatives of the people of the Republic of Barbados and the human rights arm of the Americas. So I am now inviting Her Excellency the President, the representative of the Chief Justice, Mr. Justice Bell, the Attorney General who just escaped me, and the judges of the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. Please come to the stage and join the President and Vice President of the Court and Minister Simmons. We'd like to have an official photo, please. I thank you all for being witnesses and for your courtesy. At this point, Her Excellency the President, we understand you have to make your departure, and the representative of the Chief Justice and members of Cabinet and other dignitaries. So this is my opportunity to bring today's ceremony to a close. I offer thanks to you all for being part of this historic occasion. We know this will be a challenging fight, but I recall the words of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, those hopeful words. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Thank you all. For the departure of the President, please rise. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen.